This is one of the most important cars Ford ever built, and almost nobody realizes it. It was cheap, tiny, and a little bit strange looking. It had a back window that slanted the wrong way. Most people remember it for one thing only, a flying car in a wizard movie. But hidden under that humble little body was a secret. An engine that would go on to win at every level's motorsport for 50 years. It powered future world champions on their very first laps. It built careers, it built companies, it built entire racing series. This little economy car quietly created a dynasty. This is the story of the Ford Anglia, the cheap little Ford whose engine quietly built a racing empire. To understand it, go back to the late 1950s. Britain was still recovering from the war. Money was tight, and most families could not dream of a fancy car. What they needed was something small, simple, and affordable. A car to get to work, and maybe to the seaside on a Sunday. Ford of Britain set out to build exactly that. A brand new small car for ordinary people. In October 1959, they revealed it. The Ford Anglia 105e. It was modern, cheerful, and unlike anything else in its class. Well over 1 million Anglias would eventually find homes. It became one of Britain's best-loved small cars. The first thing everyone noticed was that rear window. Instead of slanting inward like a normal car, it slanted the other way. A backward-raped window, as if the glass was leaning out. It looked space-age, almost futuristic for a cheap family car. But it was not just a styling gimmick. The unusual shape gave the people in the back more headroom. It helped keep the rear glass clearer in the British rain, and it made the little Anglia instantly recognizable on the road. The look echoed grand American cars of the era, like the reverse-angle rear window of the Lincoln Continental. Now that bold, futuristic look sat on a humble British runabout. People either loved it or thought it was bizarre. Either way, nobody forgot it. But the truly important part of the Anglia was not its window. It was the engine. Ford gave the Anglia a completely new design. A small 4-cylinder, just under 1 liter in size. On its own, it was modest, around 39 horsepower. Enough to carry a small family, and not much more. But the design was clever in a way that would matter enormously. It was what engineers call over-square. A wide bore and a short stroke, which meant it loved to rev. High revs are where horsepower lives. And it was light, simple, and incredibly tough. This engine had a name that would become legendary. The Kent. The Kent engine was about to outgrow the little Anglia and take over the racing world. Racers quickly spotted the potential in that cheap little motor. It was light, it revved happily, and it could be tuned cheaply. Among those watching were 2 brilliant young engineers. Their new company would soon become a legend of its own, Cosworth. Cosworth took the humble Anglia engine and transformed it. They squeezed more and more power out of it. 75 horsepower, then 85, then more. They dropped the tuned engines into small, light racing cars from Lotus. In a new category called Formula Junior, the combination was almost untouchable. In 1960, a young Scotsman took one to victory. His name was Jim Clark. He would go on to become one of the greatest drivers who ever lived. And one of his early stepping stones was a tuned engine from a cheap little Ford. The Anglia's engine kept climbing the ranks. Lotus and Ford used the Kent as the foundation for even greater things. A famous twin-cam racing engine was built on the same engine family. It went into the Lotus Cortina and the original Lotus Elan. Suddenly, the bones of a budget Ford were winning serious races. Jim Clark hurled Lotus Cortinas around touring car tracks, a front wheel in the air. The little engine that powered a family car had grown up, and it was just getting started. Then came the idea that turned the Kent into an empire. In the late 1960s, a new racing class was created. It was called Formula Ford. Simple, single-seat race cars, all using the same humble Ford engine. The Kent, straight from the Anglia family tree. Formula Ford was cheap, fair, and brutally competitive. It became the first rung on the ladder to the top of motorsport. For decades, almost every young driver with a dream started here. Their very first race car was powered by a descendant of the Anglia's engine. Future Formula One champions cut their teeth on it. Even Ayrton Senna, one of the greatest of all time, raced Formula Ford early on. An entire generation of legends began behind that little motor. And Cosworth, born tuning these engines, would go on to build Formula One winners. Few engines in history have launched so many careers. And the Kent engine simply refused to age. Tuned versions powered Formula Ford grids for decades, deep into the 2000s. Cosworth used the same basic block to build a racing engine called the FVA. It conquered Formula 2 and helped point the way to something greater still. The mighty Cosworth DFV, one of the most successful Formula 1 engines ever. The thread runs all the way back to that humble little Ford. And the Anglia did not just lend out its engine. It went racing too, in its own right. On the drag strip, tuned Anglias became wild, nose-high monsters. On road courses and rally stages, they punched far above their weight. For a generation of enthusiasts, the cheeky little Ford was a giant killer, proof that you did not need money to go fast. Just a light car, a willing engine, and a bit of nerve. It was the people's race car. But for millions of people, the Anglia means something completely different. Decades after it left production, it found a second life on screen. A pale blue Ford Anglia became the flying car in Harry Potter. 2 boys flew it to school and crashed it into a furious magical tree. To a whole new generation, the Anglia was not an economy car at all. It was a piece of movie magic that could fly. Most of them never knew the deeper secret, that the real magic was always under the hood. So the next time you see a little old Ford Anglia, look closer. That funny backward window, that cheerful, modest shape. It hides one of the most important engines in racing history, a motor that powered world champions on their very first laps. That built Cosworth, fed Formula Ford, and outlived the car by decades. The Anglia was cheap, it was humble, it was ordinary, and quietly, without anyone really noticing, it built an empire. Not bad for a little family car. With a window that leaned the wrong way.